the Saddle Cartel YouTube channel. Hey, my name's John. I got a good guest on tonight. This is Joey Reckerd from Missouri. Joey's a member of the cartel here with us. And what, about 10 days ago? What was the date of that, Joey?
The 16th.
16th of September. He took advantage of the Missouri early season and was able to harvest a 14 scoreable point, 166 inch velvet buck. So congratulations,
Yeah,
Joey.
I appreciate it. He actually, I called 14 points just because I want to, but it was 13 scoreable points, 14
Okay.
total. But yeah, 166 and 2/8, man. Just
and in velvet, huh?
Yeah, which is I checked all my boxes in one night, man. Double drop time, giant plus in velvet. I mean, it was truly a Missouri bucket list buck. That doesn't happen very often, at least
Hey,
not where I'm from, anyhow.
that's a feat in itself, just having the opportunity at a velvet buck, much less a velvet buck of that, that caliber. That's just something to be said. And
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, so I've always told my wife that I kind of want to venture, east over towards Tennessee or Kentucky just to try to get at a velvet buck, because those are really, there might be another state that I'm forgetting about, but I'm pretty sure those are the two best states that you have an opportunity to go kill a velvet buck in. And he said, I never thought it would happen. I actually called the conservation agent about it. I said, hey, man, did I do something special? And then he had to one up me. He's like, nah, I killed a real nice one a couple years ago. Sometimes it just happens. Like, well, thanks. But,
Well, cool. Well, we'll get into that story, but Joey, if you would take us back a little bit, I'd like to get a little bit of history on you.
okay.
Starting with where you're from, where you grew up, and how you kind of first found your love for the outdoors.
So I actually grew up not very far outside of St. Louis, and it really wasn't that good of an area to the point where I went to school there. But my parents always kind of kept me in the house, and we spent the majority of our time, my mom and my stepdad, at Mark Twain Lake, Goose Creek, always getting outdoors. My stepdad was always a big hunter. My dad was a big fisherman. Really wasn't much of a hunter. And as we progressed and got older, about 16 years old, my stepdad asked me if I wanted to start going out and going hunting with him. So I did that, and I took to it, but I didn't. Now, I was in sports, and I cared a little bit more about running around and chasing girls and stuff when I was younger. Then as I got older, my dad had married a woman named Mary, and she lived on 140 acres in Cedar Hill. About that time, I was 19, and I moved out there for scot free. Didn't pay electric, didn't pay anything. I was caretaker of the property. I left everybody I knew, and I had nothing else to do other than get into hunting. So I saved up my money, and I actually went into Dunn Sporting Goods to buy a rifle. And I got to talking to the guy. I told him I was brand new at it. I didn't know what I was looking at. He goes, well, you get 10 days with a rifle, and you get 4 months with a bow. I said, okay, well, that makes more sense to me. I'll go ahead and do that. And it was a Bowtech Tomcat. He put my hands fully decked out. It was a $600 bow. I bought that thing, and I kept after it for 3 years. It took me, and I finally got my first harvest with a compound. And
Oh, nice.
I've just kept after it, man. I got my first buck, I got my first doe, and now my first big wall mounter with my compound. So I've just done a lot of things, played a lot of sports, been a lot of places. The one thing that I picked up and stuck with has been bow hunting.
Man, once it gets its grip on you, golly, it's hard to let that grip go, huh?
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's something.
Yeah, for anybody watching or folks that just don't know, you can't really articulate to folks, why it's so addicting and fun and just exhilarating and just all the emotions you get from, especially archery and hunting too. I'm not taking away from gun hunting. I've gun hunted for years. I haven't gun hunted for years, but I used to, and I enjoyed my time there. But I just, again, I wanted that challenge. And archery, you know, 30, 35 and in, it just something up close and personal about an animal with that is just, it's gripping. But
It's passionate, and it was cool the way it worked out, because I got that compound and worked on it, and I showed my dad. I told you earlier, he's always been a really big bass fisherman. That's kind of where all his time went, and showed him my first animal. Well, he went with me to Dunn's, and then he picked out his first buck. I think it was a Hoyt Vectrix that he got. And he got into it. He killed his first animal. Then the very next year, he went and bought a farm down in Egger Springs. And it's been, both of us been after it ever since. It's like,
snowball effect.
yeah. It's cool to
Awesome.
bring him into that. It's a lot of people can't say that. I've actually got my dad into deer hunting. It's pretty
Well, that's
neat.
cool, man. Yeah, that's awesome. And it's something you guys can enjoy together for the rest of your days.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. So always been a Midwest guy, hunting those big Midwest giants in Missouri, huh? Have
Yeah,
you ever ventured outside Missouri yet?
I have not. I've always talked about it. Me and my buddies have talked about it, but work and trying to keep up
Sure.
with everything,
Yeah,
it's
understandable.
hard to do it. And not only that, but taking time away from hunting a state that you're familiar with. When you haven't tagged one yet, it's kind of hard to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Cool. Well, thanks for catching us up on a little backstory, Joey. And now let's try to get into this 166 you got there on the 16th. Tell us a story on how this all took place.
So it was actually my first time hunting, and I've got to give all the credit to a buddy of mine. Going back to my dad a couple of years ago, he's gotten older and a little bit more disabled, so he moved to Florida and sold the farm.
Hmm.
So I've been bouncing around on public land and kind of hunting where I could. He caught wind of that, and he turned me onto this property this year. And that particular weekend, he in the beginning of the week, he went trout fishing. He goes, "Why don't you go over here and hunt this farm, hunt that bean field?" Well, from east to west, the bean field's probably about 700 yards wide. I set up about 350 yards into it. There's a little dog leg of timber that kicks out in this bean field. I felt like it was a good secluded spot for the deer to come up and eat. And it was more of an inventory hunt than anything. Obviously, I was hoping to get something, but I was just trying to kind of figure out where they're coming from. And it was probably right at 6 o'clock or so. I was looking at this little corner, and I glanced over to my right, and roughly 350 yards, I seen something that wasn't there before. And then it moved. I was like, well, daggum, man. I pulled my binoculars out and I looked over and I seen it was this buck. Then he turned his head and I seen that he had the drop time. Like, oh my God. He browsed around for 15 or 20 minutes and he walked out just to the middle of the beans and he bedded down. Well, then I had a doe come up on me immediately afterwards. Didn't really want to shoot her. It was hot outside, but I didn't want her to bust me either. I had this buck down this direction. So I went ahead and shot her. That's the one that got my socks wet. Went off
Yeah.
and died in the river. And I had my wife come pick me up. I said, "Well, you drop me off in the middle of the field." I said, "I need you to go all the way to the far end of the field. Go to the west end of the field and pick me up down there so I don't bump this buck." Got my doe, got her out, and brought her home and everything. And then went back out the next day and I got out in the woods about 2 o'clock and I found the only tree that I could find, and I just happened to have the right wind from the direction he was coming. Wasn't much of a wind, maybe 3 mile an hour, but I set up. I sweat a lot. It was a miserable hunt for the most part. At right at 6 o'clock, that son of a gun, he stepped right back out in the exact same area. He stepped out and he stopped. And I'm pretty bad with buck fever. I've shot over, I've shot under. I've seen some
Yeah.
good deer and I've missed them. I was actually pretty calm about it. I picked my bow up. It's like, you know what? I better range them. I had ranged all the yardages beforehand. Picking out spots. That all went out the window when he stepped out. I forgot what was what. So went ahead and ranged him again. He was right at 32 yards. It's like, okay, well, I got that. So I picked my bow up and I drew back. Well, then my pin hit a limb.
Mm,
Like, that ain't going to work for me. And I was kind of like, well, if he walks forward, I'll have a shooting lane, but he's going to be a little bit further out, maybe a couple of yards. Well, then I remembered I was in the saddle. So I let my tether out a little bit and I leaned back on that tail and that opened up a whole new window for me. Leaned back and I put it on him, went right into the center of his rib cage and come out his armpit.
oh,
And
nice.
instead of going back into the woods, he went from 32 yards to my left, made a couple of hops, got about 15 yards in front of me, and then he just stopped.
Yeah.
He got all wobble legged, man, and he
So
fell
you,
down. And I watched him take his last couple of breaths, and then shortly after, I was on the phone with my wife, pretty teared up and choked up. I'm like, I got that son of a gun. I said, grab that deer
oh
card and get out of
man.
here, but take your time. It was it. I don't know who was looking down on me that day, but the wind was right. He stepped out in the perfect spot. I had the only tree I could get in, gave me a perfect window. I don't know
Wow.
if it was grandma, grandpa, the good Lord, or a past pet, but somebody was looking after me that day, and it just,
Oh man.
yeah, it couldn't have been better.
Wow.
You know,
Congratulations. So you had zero history of this deer. Didn't even know he was in there. No cameras through the summer and on that property or anything.
no, the buddy that turned me on to it's been hunting that farm for 15 years, and they've never seen anything even like it. We don't know where
Really?
he came from or anything else. And I
Wow.
told him the night before, I'm like, I know this deer, but there's a drop time. Oh, you're full of it. I'm telling you, there's a drop time. Yeah, you're full of it. And I shot him the next night, sent him pictures, and Yeah, he about come home early from his trout fishing trip over it.
I bet, man.
Yeah, well,
Golly.
that's actually the same buddy I sent you pictures of that shot that mainframe 12 the following
Yeah,
weekend.
yeah. That was a stud too.
Yeah,
Was
yeah.
that this on the same property?
No, this was down in Centerville. It was
Okay, yeah.
southern
You did
Missouri in the
tell me
Ozark
that.
region. Yeah, which and
Okay.
they're starting to get a lot bigger down there, but that's a pretty remote place. There's a lot of people running dogs year round. You know,
Yeah.
it's just it's thick enough down there, and it happens enough to where they actually only allow you one deer tag for the whole season. Doesn't matter how you kill them, and there's plenty of whitetail, but it's a pretty pressured area. And
Okay.
he wasn't even sure he was going to shoot that thing at first. I was sitting in the box blind with him, put binoculars on. I'm like, that's a good buck.
Yeah.
You need to shoot that buck. That's a good buck. So
Uh-huh.
I'm betting that one's
Awesome.
140 or better.
No kidding.
Yeah,
So the beans you were hunting, had they started turning yet? Were they still green?
patches of them were turning. There was
Starting to
patches
turn.
of them. Yeah, a little bit closer to the edges, but I'd say 90% of it was still green.
Okay. And I'm just asking out of curiosity because I hear a lot of guys talk that once those beans start turning, the deer just they don't feed on them anymore. So
Yeah, I've heard the same rumor. A lot of people told me that they turn better for them, so they
yeah.
don't mess with them. Same thing with clover. Once it starts turning, they don't really mess with it. But he sure enjoyed it. He was tearing it up pretty good.
Nice, nice. Cool, man. So Missouri, 1 buck state, right? No, you did tell me you get a rifle tag in Missouri, correct?
Yeah, so you can when you buy your tags up front, you get two any deer tags. And you can buy bonus tags, which is kind of tricky if you don't know what you're doing because you can slap that any deer tag on the doe too, but then you wasted the buck tag.
Yeah.
So when you buy your tags, you get two any deer tags. If you're going to kill a buck, you can kill a buck before rifle season, which this year is going to fall on the 16th. Years past, it's usually around 11th or 12th of November. This year, it's on the 16th. Now you can use that any deer tag, or I'm sorry, you can get your gun tags, and that'll be one any deer tag. If you kill a buck with your gun during gun season, that's your two. You're done.
Yeah.
If you don't get one during gun season, you can go back to that leftover any deer archery tag and still kill
Okay.
another one. So 2 bucks total, just spaced out.
So you do have some more opportunity to do some bow hunting before the season ends out there.
Yeah, I do. I do.
Good, good.
So and this
Because
is every
that's just
week.
got to be a terrible feeling, for those poor guys that hunt 1 buck states, and don't have the opportunity to hunt other states. If they kill early, it's like, what do they do? I mean, obviously, harvesting those and trying to help the herd by doing that is vital. We all need to do it, but it still almost takes a lot of the pizzazz out of the rest of the season if you can't shoot another buck. So I was just
Yeah,
curious
it's
about
and me and my buddy both are a little bit depressed about Sweet November. And
that. Oh man,
I took days off before our gun season, and I do every year just to chase them during the rut. And it's like, well,
yeah.
now what do I do? I guess I'm going to move on my vacation days and hunt that whole week of gun season instead. But
Yeah. Or
I
you can
say
just
that
slip on down to Kansas or up to Iowa, either one.
yeah, yeah, I gotta get permission from the old lady from that one. The amount of state tags ain't cheap.
Yeah, I
So
understand. I
unless you
understand
want to hunt
completely.
Missouri, I think we've got the cheapest out of state tags there is. You want to come here? I think it's 250 to come here and hunt.
Yeah, it's not bad. I actually came out there in 2008 on a guided hunt in northern Missouri and was super surprised about the price of the tag, and over the counter. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Missouri's an easy state to come hunt if you want to. We've got good deer.
So that was your biggest buck to date, I'm guessing, that 166?
Yeah, that was my biggest buck to date. The only other ones I got to brag about are the ones hanging up behind me here.
Yeah.
I've got a really big one here that's paddled out. He was
Oh,
one that
no.
I was after, and I never did see him on the hoof other than one time. So I figured I was going to go look for his sheds, kind of figure out where he was hanging out, and I found him. But the
Yeah.
rest of the body was attached to the dead head. So
Oh, man.
unfortunately, yeah.
Golly. Well, cool, man. That was a gorgeous buck. I was so happy for you when I seen you post that on there. I was like, man, that's one good way to start the season off. So
Yeah,
again, congratulations on a great success, Joey. So walk us a little bit through your progression as you hunt. Got in through your hunting career. Was you a stand hunter, like a climber, hang on, blind guy, and then kind of walk us through how you got into saddle hunting. When did that kind of come into play for you?
So it was mainly always just presets and ladder stands. That's how my dad had the farm, and that's when we both really started getting into it. My progression started a few years ago when he sold it, and
Hmm.
then I was stuck mainly doing public land hunting. And the old Summit Viper, man, as comfortable as they are, they're heavy, they're bulky, they're clunky. I mean, you can't put it
Hmm.
on a tree and get up 20 foot without making a ton of noise.
Sure.
Kind of got tired of that, and then I bought I think it was an XOP Vantage that I got, which was a little bit better of a setup, but dadgum, it was still, by the time I put a pack and everything on it, 30, 35 pounds.
Yeah.
And I just kind of moved through everything, and God bless my wife, she lets me do it. At that point, when I started trying different stuff, then I really became a gear junkie. Every time something came out, I wanted to try it. I did the saddle hunting for a few years, and it always seemed like if I had a saddle on me, I always found a spot that was better for a hang on. And then if I had a hang on me, I always found a spot that was better for a saddle. So
Yeah.
I kind of bounced back and forth between the two until I finally settled and said, I'm going to have both, depending on the situation. Um, but the saddle, just the lightweightness of it. And at the end of the day, it's better on my back. The
Yeah.
saddle is. So I kind of stuck with it. I find myself standing in a hang on more than I do anything. I'll stand sideways and lean against the tree, but saddle's comfortable. You've got the tree in front of you. There's no reaching around behind you to grab your compound. It's hanging right there. You can dance around it. It's worked out better. And with this buck, the hang on wouldn't have done it. The
No.
tree that I got in just happened. All the limbs kind of grew out forward towards the bean field. So if I'd have tried to tuck up in between them, I'd have been dodging limbs trying to,
Yeah.
draw back on them.
That sounds like a perfect setup. What kind of
Yeah,
setup are you running? What saddle are you running these days?
I got a CGM Cobra.
Got the old CGM, huh?
Yes, sure. Jerry Gross hooked me up. I had a custom idea that I wanted, and he made it happen. I've had
He's
quite a
good
few
for
of
that.
them. Yeah, he does fantastic work. Great service too.
Oh yeah. Now, are you a one sticker, a multi sticker? What's your ascension method?
So one stick, and I'm new to this year. I've got the
Okay.
mobile sniper.
Oh yeah,
So
that's that's a super cool stick, man. It really is.
I like the fact that I can stand up and turn around in it, and
Yeah.
it's got the angle platform. I mean, it's pretty fantastic. I believe he's dropping a platform here pretty soon. I'm probably going to get that too. And I
Mhm.
noticed that when I hunted the doe, actually, I had a really hard time. The tree that I was hunting, again on the edge of a bean field, tree selection is pretty limited.
Yeah.
So if the tree's leaning, too much forward or too much to the side, not having the ability to level a platform or offset it was kind of big. I wasn't really that comfortable when I was hunting that doe. The buck was perfect, but I might stick with the one. I think I'm going to stick with the one sticking, not necessarily with a one stick though. I'm starting to lean more towards having a stick and a platform.
Yeah.
For that scenario to get around the trees and have better selection of trees, and then I'll have a hang
I
on my back pocket if need be.
I do the same thing. So I'll send to my hunting height, whatever that is, wherever I can find cover, and then I have a platform that I will set up right beside the top of my one stick, and it gives me so much more real estate. One, to get around the tree,
Yeah,
two, for foot positioning. Because the one thing I have found with saddle hunting is the only thing that's not comfortable sometimes is my feet. So trying to change the pressure for my feet, that helps me a lot, having just that little bit of more real estate.
yeah,
Is it necessary? No. I mean, for a 3 4 hour hunt, I can get away with hunting just off my one stick. But an all day set, or a lengthy set, I'm going to have my platform with me, and it's 5 more pounds. The
right.
one stick's 5 pounds ish, whatever. I've never weighed it, but it's still super light, still super easy, quiet. So I just like having that extra room myself. So I completely understand.
Yeah, when I shot that doe, the tree that I was on, again, that was at an angle, so I had my tether damn near all the way around the backside of the tree, to keep gravity from swinging me on the outside. And I would have much rather shot her from my strong side leaning this way out of the tree, but I couldn't do it. So I actually had to stand up and get on this side of the tree and shoot at her because, like I said, again, the angle of the tree, I felt like if I'd have had a stick on that weak side where I was swinging around, an extra place to put my foot would have really helped out with that one.
Sure, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So
Trial and error with all of it.
oh yeah, and that's one of the coolest things about saddle hunting is it's so customizable to each person. You know, there's so many options on how you can climb once you've got there to where you're going to hunt. How you set that up. If you're a leaner, if you're a sitter, just there's a lot of options to it, and like you said just earlier, the one thing that I have completely loved about being in the saddle is my back does never hurt. It just I've not had a back cramp. I can sit down on a hang on for 10 minutes and I'm starting to twist and turn and try to,
Hmm.
my back gets tight and I enjoy that so much not having to deal with that. Not
Yeah.
saying there's not a time for a hang on and I'm not, trying to say that saddle hunting is the only way to hunt. But for me, I enjoy the comfort, the security, the cover. I love everything about a saddle. But everybody that saddle hunts, they know exactly what we're talking about. So,
Yeah, yeah, like you said, you're in that stand and you're leaning forward to lean back a little more than you're sitting back upright, and you're just better off to stand up. But it's depending on the situation. I mean, if you know the area and where you're hunting and you know where the deer are traveling, the saddle might not work out for you. You might have one
sure,
tree that's just only going to work with a hang on.
yeah,
So
absolutely, absolutely. So, what kind of bow you shooting?
I got a Hoyt VTM 31 this year.
Oh yeah, that's a sweet bow. I got the 33. So,
Do you? Yeah, it's actually my
uh,
second one. I had a VTM 31 that was in all black, and then I got one because I'm a sucker for uniform and stuff. It's actually
yeah,
why I went back to CGM. They make a really comfortable saddle, but they'll also match whatever you want. And I
yeah.
just like all my stuff to match, you know.
What kind of arrow and broadhead combo are you running?
Well, I originally thought I was going to run the RIP TKOs this year, and I really started stretching out, shooting like 60 yards in that, and I didn't really like the amount of pin gap that I was getting, especially from 20 to 30. It was a little bit more than I wanted to. I'm a single pin guy, and I just want to know that if I put my pin on a deer at 20 yards and it steps out to 25 or even to 30, I don't really have to adjust too much.
Sure.
So I
Yeah.
bought the Whitewater Archery Newgrounds. They're
Okay.
8.3 GPI.
I've not
They're
heard of those.
I would look into them. They're 8.3 GPI, and it's to me, like I said, from 0 to 32 yards, I'm pretty much hitting them right where I want to. Um,
Zeroed out. Huh?
yeah, 75 grain inserts, 4-inch wraps on them. I'm shooting the new AAE Air Razor 26s, which
Hmm.
are 7 grains apiece. And then this is the first year I've tried them. I've been really happy with them. The Rec broadheads, the Rec 2 blade mechanicals, not the
Oh, yeah.
not the.
They,
I think they're the inch and eighth cut, not the 2.5. They're the shorter
yeah, I
ones.
think there's
But
a HXP is the super wide, like 2.3, and then
yeah,
the XP maybe is the 1.8. Those, those things are gaining some momentum. I've seen a lot of people using them, and they look like a legit broadhead. Were you happy with the performance of those on your deer
I,
this year?
oh yeah, I was very happy with the performance on them. I mean, I kind of felt like I feel like whenever you shoot one, and I've had Tooth of the Arrow do this too. I feel like if you shoot a whitetail and they don't dart off, that sucker just sliced through them so quickly, they don't even know what happened. And that's what that
Mhm.
buck did. He just kind of hopped and stopped, and like I said, it blew through him. It didn't stop. I mean, it hit the ground and kind of skipped afterwards. But and the
Yeah,
broadhead did not get that chewed up. The blade was a little chewed up, which you can replace. But I
yeah.
mean, the tip looks like it still came out of the package.
Awesome, man.
So
Well, I'm glad to hear a story with those because they have been catching my eye. I've been a fixed blade guy for I don't know the last 3 or 4 years. I was mechanicals for years before that, and I had a bad encounter with an 8 pointer, just probably my biggest 8 pointer ever. And it was kind of my fault. He was a little bit quarter to me. Tried to tuck it in on that shoulder real tight to the heart, and I hit that knuckle
hmm,
with a swacker, and it bent that swacker like a fish hook.
I bet.
So I was like, all right, I got to change something. And so I went to fixed heads, and I've been with fixed heads for several years now. And, once you get them flying, I've loved the performance of them, especially the sharpness, because, like you said just a minute ago, once you shoot through a deer and if it zips through it real quick, sometimes they don't even know they're hit. They're just like, what happened? And,
Hmm.
they may run 20 yards, and then there comes the wobble legs, and man, no tracking involved. And that's just like,
Right.
yes. So I have enjoyed that aspect of it. But, mechanicals is just the convenience of them, as far as, not having to worry about a super tuned arrow, or a super tuned bow, and just the blood trails and the devastation they cause. I mean, they still have a place, especially in the whitetail world for me. So I'm gonna tinker with some mechanicals this year as well, some fixed heads, so we'll see where
That's
it
why I
takes
ran
us.
Tooth of the Arrows. They when they leave a hole, they leave a square hole, and I'm
Mhm.
colorblind. So if my wife's my bloodhound,
Yeah,
if I'm going to track myself, the little driplets really don't work for me. I got to have good blood, and
sure.
I wish I could tell you how well the Rex did as far as a blood trail, but the doe made it 30, and the buck ran closer to me 15 yards. So I haven't actually got to blood trail with one yet.
Who cares if they're doing that?
Yeah, exactly right.
That's awesome, man. So obviously, we talked about that you can't hunt again until rifle season kicks in. When it does kick in, you did tell me that you can archery hunt through your rifle season, right? If you
Correct.
choose to.
Yeah, you
Okay.
just have to have the rifle tag.
Yeah. Do you have any more doe tags to kind of tinker with until rifle season gets here?
Yeah, I can keep buying bonus tags. I
Okay,
can kill as many doe as I want to.
awesome.
So if
Now,
I kill one more, me and the wife are pretty well set on food, though.
yeah, I mean, you don't want to overstock yourself, and have waste. I don't. Does Missouri have a bear population? Can you guys hunt bear at all up there?
I think it was 3 years ago that they incorporated it, but it's a lottery. You got to put in for it.
Ah, okay.
So they're actually doing the same thing with elk too. You can put in
Oh,
for elk
nice.
tags, but they might maybe don't quote me on this, but man, maybe 10 or 15 tags for each that actually get awarded out, and they'll tell you what zones that you have to hunt in. And
Okay.
our our bear population, I mean, they're there, but I wouldn't be willing to bet we even got more than maybe 20 or 30 in the state. It's not
Oh,
very thick.
trust me, it's coming. If you got them, before you know it, dude, they're going to be like cattle running around because here in West Virginia, I'm I'm on the Virginia West Virginia border. I was raised and lived in Virginia most of my life. I've been just across the line in West Virginia now for about 7 years. But regardless, it's the same territory, the same kind of region. 20, 25 years ago, if you seen a bear, someone would call you a liar. They'd be like, "No, you didn't. You're lying." They was just very rare, kind of like unicorns. But now, dude, every camera guys put out around here, all they get's bear pictures. They're rampant, and the seasons and the tags are just. I think Virginia you get just one a year. West Virginia you can kill two, but one of those bears have to be in certain counties. Which I was lucky. I got to kill one earlier this month on our early season in West Virginia, but I've got another one, and I plan on using it because we just have too many of them here, and they almost become a nuisance because it's not like they. I know they're devastating on fawns, so they do hurt the fawn population,
Yeah,
and deer won't. They'll tolerate them, but they won't hang around. So if a bear's coming, they're gone. Now they may come back once the bear clears the area, and it may take them a little while. But they're not going to hang around if that bear's coming down the ridge or whatever. So it kind of gets aggravating a little bit with the bears when there's too many. Now they're
yeah.
fun, when you're kind of seeing them here and there, but when it becomes that rampant like it is here, it just kind of gets a little aggravating. So I was just curious if you had that opportunity to chase a bear out there.
No, I always mean to put in for it, and I need to. When we were down there with my buddy hunting, we actually went by the feed store. We know the guy that owns it, and he's got a black bear out there that you would have thought is a grizzly that put a black coat on. I mean, that sucker is big.
Monster, huh?
And I was going to ask you, I was kind of curious about that. I mean, I know what they do to the fawns, but as far as seeing whitetail, how it affects the deer hunting, because my dad had one show up at the Salem farm. It's probably been 8 or 9 years ago since then. And I tell you what, he didn't have a picture for a couple of weeks. That bear
Yeah,
showed up once or twice, and he just everything that was ever on camera had disappeared.
it's not that bad here. So I'm running cameras right now, and when the bear shows up, obviously the deer leave, but within 2 hours of the bear leaving, sometimes three, the deer will come back. But as soon as
Yeah,
the bear comes back, the deer are gone again. So now it does get cold here. Usually end of November, 1st of December, and the bears will den up and they kind of leave. And you don't see them as much, which is a joy because then you can just hunt deer and not have to worry about the bear. But up until that point, you're going to contend with them for sure here.
yeah. Our nuisance seems to be hogs, especially get to the southern part of the state. We've got a big hog problem.
Yeah, it seems like you guys, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, a lot of the southern states. The hogs are kind of your nuisance out there, like the bear are here. So
Yeah, they haven't opened up a season on them yet. I kind of wish our conservation would almost put a bounty on them, a couple bucks a tail or something, because
yeah,
they said they're taking care of it. But I mean, Texas has said the same thing, and I mean, they're in that things. Once you get one of them, they start coming out of the woodwork. Seems like.
yeah, yeah. Well, Joey, I've had you on here for right 30 minutes. I want to thank you for taking a little time out today and jumping on the live with us here and being our first success series of 2024. We are completely ecstatic for you. What a great deer you was able to harvest, man. I mean, like you and I was talking before we went live, a lot of folks never even break the 140, 150 mark. So
Absolutely.
that's a trophy animal that you got 100%, and he's in velvet with a drop time. I mean, golly, like you said, you checked all the boxes. So,
Hmm.
but again, thank you for coming on. Congratulations on a great harvest. I wish you the best for the rest of the season. I know you're going to kind of be handcuffed until rifle season gets here as far as chasing a buck, but maybe you can at least fill the freezer up a little bit more of the doe while you're waiting. And
Yeah.
if not, it just keep doing what you're doing. Stay safe. Anybody that's watching or anybody that watches this in the future, please like and subscribe to the channel. As folks post on the Saddle Cartel Facebook page, we're going to try to just get folks on and talk about their successes through the success series. Some things I do want you to watch out for. Drawn Archery, who's a big sponsor of the Saddle Cartel, is going to be dropping a sweet, sweet product. It was supposed to come out today. A little bit of snafu. We're hoping tomorrow to drop this product. You guys are going to love this thing. So keep your eyes out on that. When it does drop and Drawn Archery does the release on it, we've got a YouTube review of it. We're going to drop here on the Saddle Cartel channel for you guys to see it a little bit too. Also, we're going to be having a saddle giveaway coming up. So I'm going to be doing an unboxing and a first impression of a saddle, and then talking about a giveaway right after that. And that's going to be coming up in the next few weeks. So keep your eyes out for that. Otherwise, everybody, as the seasons kick off, or if you're already in season, again, stay safe, have fun. Let us celebrate with you the success you have in 2024. And thanks for tuning in to the Saddle Cartel YouTube channel. Joey, I'll say goodnight, and you and I will talk soon, okay?
All right. Thanks, John.
All right, buddy.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.